Okay, this is War of the Suns, the Chinese War of Resistance, 1937 to 45, from MMP Games. This is the situation at the end of turn 1, which is effectively the second turn if you're playing the campaign, because it has a turn 0, which you can play out as well. Now, I've got to admit, I'm enjoying this game. It's been hard work getting to where I am now. I think people can appreciate that by the number of videos have gone out, which are basically my first stab at interpreting these rules, which are pretty dense. And as I've said, they're very sort of it's very small font. If you can see that on an A4 page. So if you like most manuals, the font would be much bigger than that. So this is a much bigger rule book than it appears to be. What's happened? Let's think about it. Well, first thing is the Japanese consolidated their position in Shanghai. That's where they brought in all the sea transport to basically gain a hold of this place. Now, they couldn't capture the Chinese factories because they've been moved out in the previous factory segment, and quite a few Comiton pro-Comiton controlled factories have been moved away from the front line, but they couldn't move the factories that are under the control of unaffiliated cliques. Now that resulted in Japanese strategic bombers attacking the Chinese factories in Tainan here and destroying it. So once that factory's gone, it can never be replaced. Now when you move your factories, you don't have to move them all to the same place. It's like but you can't get any new ones effectively. But say I had 5 coming out of Shanghai, I've split them up into a 3 and a 2, which is quite legitimate. Okay. The thing about factories that are being moved is they're obviously inoperative and they can't contribute to your economics. But the good thing is they can't actually be attacked either when they're in a movement phase. Otherwise, your other player could just bomb them to pieces, which wouldn't be particularly brilliant. Other things that have happened, the Japanese have done a fair amount of attacking in northern China, but they have been sort of restricted by the sheer number of enemy units, and so they've made a few hexes gained here and there. The most important thing was they managed to capture this resource centre here, which they had to use, well, it was across a major river attack, but they used a lot of bombers and things to give them the leverage to take that position. So that and Shanghai are the two sort of resource centres they've captured, which are count as objectives for the victory point, because they've gained more of these sort of objective type hexes than they've actually lost, and they haven't lost any. They managed to get 6 victory points, so they're now on 12 victory points. I haven't really discussed victory points, but the plotting for the victory points for the Comiton and CCP is done at the end of the game, which is probably a good idea, because I imagine it'd be a nightmare trying to plot it dynamically. Other things, the communists using their pro-CCP clique here moved into that territory, and they did conduct an offensive against a very weak Japanese unit, admittedly, and gained a bit of ground. But then the Japanese couple of divisions here turned on them and really chewed them up quite badly. It wasn't a huge problem because the Kuomintang actually transferred quite a few, I think they did 20 RPs, replacement points, to the communists, which they've been able to rebuild any of their lost units, and they've also got the ability to, which I didn't mention, so I didn't notice it, that they can actually build generic units using RPs in addition to the actual counter set, the actual stuff that is either on the board or in the replacement pool. One thing I have done is I've sort of marked these replacement pools as being not used here, but I've created pools over the side. Cometon, I've got a replacement pool here, so I can see all the units a lot easier rather than having a huge great stacks in those replacement pool boxes. And the Japanese, they've replaced all their damaged units anyway. Other thing I've done is the Western Pacific box. There's a lot of stuff in the Western Pacific, so I've created this like little unit chart here where I can hold them all rather than having them all stacked in there. The nationalists really haven't. They did conduct one attack. They've been busy getting units to the actual front and defending rather than doing anything else, but they did do one attack against the Japanese here, but they didn't achieve anything. Actually, they ended up retreating all the units, so that wasn't particularly epic. Other things they've done, they've decided to start destroying some of the railways, making it harder, because the Japanese are probably going to capture these northern areas, so they're sort of ripping up the railways as they're going. They've also used their construction capacities to start extending the road, because this is actually, you can't see it very well, but yeah, well, you can actually with this camera. It's better than it is visually. You can see it's like a trail, so they're upgrading it from a trail to a road. You can only do 4 upgrades a turn, and you can do 4 railroad upgrades as well. So they're extending the railroad from here, probably down to Hanoi, maybe up towards what will become the Burma Road. Other things, the Japanese have used a fleet to blockade these 2 ports here, which is reducing the economic capacity of the Chinese. And also remember, when they lose these resource centres, they also gradually losing their economic capacity as well. And I think that's about it. So, as I say, it's good fun, but it's a lot of work. So if you are interested in this particular theatre, I'd say go for it. If you're not that interested, I don't think you'll find the amount of work you have to put in worthwhile. Okay, that's it. Oh yeah, one thing I haven't mentioned, but I forgot to do the garrison limits for the Japanese in North China. I've sort of semi-corrected it now, but that will be corrected. It's not a subject I've actually covered, but there are garrison requirements, and there's a garrison requirement table for lots of different situations. Cometon must garrison the communist SKM border area. There's a few about the Burma Road, etc. Anything with these in North China axis, they've got to be garrisoned, which I'm doing now. A few other things that need to be borne in mind. I think that's it. Can't say that anything else has really gone on. I will comment on the fact that the Japanese, this pretty much steamrolled the Chinese in the first turn 0, but in this turn they did lose quite a lot. So the war's beginning to get a lot more difficult for the Japanese, as mainly as they're meeting more concentrated Chinese armies, and there's some better quality armies. The Chinese did lose some elite armies, which have been rebuilt, and they're in training away from the front. Yeah, that's it for the moment.